Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we chat with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal? A zero carbon future. In this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to be catching up with Bowen, who has been in the design industry for over 20 years and founded Indah Island, which has been commissioned both Australia-wide and internationally. Natalee's work has received many industry awards and is now featured in many magazines, social media, and TV programs, such as Dream Homes, Ready, Set, Reno, Luxury Homes Revealed, Best Houses Australia, and Through the Front Gate. Natalee, how are you?
Hi. Wow. I've done a lot, huh?
You've done a crazy amount of stuff. I had to do research before this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And 20 years, it seems like a lifetime, to be honest.
Oh, look, you've accomplished so much, Natalee. But what I actually see from the work, obviously spending a bit of time together as we did in Renovate and Rebuild, and now Open Homes, and obviously reading more about you, you kind of almost seem that you're at the very beginning of your journey. Like, you've done a lot, but you're doing so much more. I mean, first, so you started the business 20 years ago?
Well, look, it's probably been, my dad was a builder, so I probably started when I was 2. So, going around to building sites and, picking up stuff and making stuff. And, it was just one of those things that was always been within me. So, designing, being able to walk into a space and, for renovations, it's just become, a really natural progression. So I didn't actually go to TAFE until I was 15. So I went through, that side of things of doing, what they call interior architecture now, but interior design. So I started really, really young. And even though, Indah Island has been around for a long time, what I've been doing has probably been longer. But you're absolutely right. You've always got to stay a student. And I think in this ever evolving world of, design and products and, everything to do with creativity, you've always got to be on your game consistently. And there's always, things that you've got to introduce into your business consistently to make it really relevant and, really encompass the consumer to make sure that you're giving them the best, a high-end professional information that they need, because at the end of the day, we're really just encyclopedias that the consumer can lean on to get all of that knowledge out of.
Absolutely. And expectations keep rising as well. I mean, just see some of the quality that you've introduced and the designs that you've come up with, which are absolutely beautiful. And then you just look at every single show or home improvement show that we either involved in or watch or are being produced on a month-to-month basis, an annual basis. They probably just keep on stepping up. You never think, you see something that's incredible, that can't be bettered, and then the next year you see developments on that, different styles, different techniques, different materials. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, what had you start Indah Island? I mean, what was that?
What is Indah Island? Well, Indah Island really started out more in the interior design focus. So my whole business has really evolved from, beautiful styling through to, doing selections in lovely homes to getting a builder's license. So we encompass everything from now start to finish. And that was a deliberate move for us, purely because to do the beautiful, you've got to do, a foundation. So you've got to literally work from the ground up and create these amazing homes. And nobody in Australia was doing what we were doing in regards to, the Hamptons. I mean, the Hamptons wasn't even a known word, I don't think, until probably about, 5 to 6 years ago. So it really evolved when we were living in Queensland and we were converting these beautiful Queensland homes, which obviously lent themselves to, being on the beachside, suburbs, having these beautiful mansion-style Hampton homes. And now everybody knows what Hamptons Homes is. So I'd like to think that we had a teeny penny, piece of, influence as to, creating those sorts of styles, because Australia just obviously lent itself so naturally to that. So Indah Island really became, my baby and really, looking at what was missing in the market, what wasn't being done. And one of the things that I really noticed was that, everybody there was, and I don't want to take offense here, but there was a lot of people that were, interior, decorators. There was a lot of builders out there, but the high level of performance wasn't really there. So we really wanted to make sure that we united that, that high-end professionalism. It wasn't about the money. It was about creating these beautiful lifestyle homes for people. It was encompassing, great design with beautiful finishes. Because when people are spending their money, regardless of whether it's 500,000 or 50 million, you've got to give them exactly the best that they can afford and the quality that they can afford, and that was a part of the market that I was seeing that was being missed. And there were so many different factors. Some people go to a draftsperson or an architect, then they go to a designer, then they go to a builder. So we wanted to really encompass all of that into a package to have a one-stop shop almost, so that people knew what their vision was going to be at the very end of the build, and they knew what they wanted to, but then we were able to really, track that back to the beginning steps to show them how they could get that end by going through that whole process. So it's worked really well for us. It's an implementation that I felt was needed. It was a niche in the market that wasn't being done. And so, we are really a one-stop shop to create all of those beautiful looks and homes.
I mean, that's absolutely incredible. Is it just, I know you're based in Western Australia. Is your, can you look after customers across the entire country, or is it just?
Yeah, country and internationally as well. So look, we've been really fortunate, in fact, and I find it quite ironic that we even get work in New York and Manhattan and even the Hamptons, which I just, blows my mind. But, we're here in little old WA. As I said, we had gone, we'd lived in overseas. We'd lived overseas for quite some time. So, we do have, all of those sorts of encompassments within the business. So we've had the opportunity to do that. We came back and then we lived in Queensland, and then we moved back to our hometown of WA about 10 years ago. And look, it was a really scary move at the time because our business had really been derived on the East Coast. But what we just found is that, these days with Zoom and getting on planes when we can now, it was just a very easy transition, to really offer that platform right the way throughout. So, for example, today we've got 2 builds in Queensland, we've got 2 in Sydney, 3 in Melbourne, and we've got about 8 here in WA. So it definitely leans more heavily towards WA because we're obviously based here, but by no means does that, stop us from doing, work. We've even done work in New Zealand, Singapore, as I said, over in America, so it really, India was another place, they have these monstrosity, beautiful home. They go, we want a beautiful Hampton style. So it does a location now, which it blows my mind. Locality for anybody, wherever they are, they can absolutely have an international business very, very easily because we can now with technology.
That's absolutely incredible. How do you manage the trades in different countries? I mean, Matt, that must be incredibly hard. Because one thing you touched on, and I was going to ask you what 3 things differentiate you from your competitors. But to be fair, we've got about there's a lot that we've discovered. I'll let you isolate those 3 in a second. But what I love about it is that one-stop shop. Being able to control the entire process from start to finish. Because I know as someone who wants to renovate or build at the end of this year our dream home, which will be in Queensland. And now I know you do Queensland, we're definitely going to be talking. You're very paranoid about what different steps of the process, especially the building component, because all the horror stories I've heard revolve around the design, the architecture looks stunning, looks amazing. But then you have the middle bit, which is the most important part, which is the implementation and the build and timeframes, and the costs just explode in some horror stories I've heard. And I get the project management is probably one of the key components to manage that. So firstly, I understand how you would manage it domestically, but is it just aligning yourself with the right partners if you're doing something outside of market?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, one of the things that we did about 18 months ago is what we launched a building company really to encompass best practices. And it was a company that we wanted to franchise model to duplicate out, because you're absolutely right. The building industry, and really getting the suppliers and the brands and encompassing that and having that good project management skill set of communication and being the conduit between builder and the consumer is something that again was being missed. It was one of those things that people assumed that a builder is a designer, is a communicator, is an accountant, is able to do all of those things, and some can. Most definitely. However, they normally, a great builder will have a backing of, all of those things, so he can just get on and do what he does, which is a build, or she does, which is a good build. So that communication process is absolutely key to it. And it's making sure that you're getting the right quotes. It's making sure that you get testimonials, and you're able to see the work that they've done beforehand. It's making sure that you not only speak to the client that they've had, but also their team of trades, because how a builder will put the face on to speak to a client can be completely different to how he operates with his trades, as in payments, as in the communication, all of the best practices that he needs to implement. Is that being passed down, to the brickie? Is that being passed down to the cabinet maker and the carpenter? So it's all of those things encompassing that communication process. And, you know pretty much straight away who you're dealing with, and, whether they have the ability to communicate and allow you to then communicate with trades. If they don't allow that, well, then straight away, red flag. If you're not able to get that testimonial from the trades, if they've had a bad experience, and look, we're all human, there's always mistakes and things that are being made. But if there's, the resolve of, conflict is also another really, really good point to add into all of that, because, builds are really complicated, and they're time consuming, and it's people's hard-earned money, and it's their lifelong dream and passion that they're putting into their family home that they've got to live in, day out. So if there's not that, conflict resolution, if there are issues within all of that, well, that's again a red flag. So there's so many layers of different things that you have to, work through, whether it be local or international. Language barriers sometimes can be a little tricky, but, that's why we've kind of kept within countries that we know and can communicate well in. But we have a great streamlined system that, is straight off the bat. This is how we operate. This is what we do. And communication is key.
That's fantastic. And one thing I'm really, inspired by with your organisation particularly is your adoption of, sustainable materials, of energy ratings, incorporating renewable energy technology, which obviously we help you with as often as we can, which is absolutely incredible. And, surprisingly to me, there's still a lot of properties being built today that don't care about the energy rating, or haven't factored in the high energy rating, or using sustainable materials, or even includes renewable energy technology, which makes absolutely no sense, obviously, to me. Before we get on to that, specifically, I mean, you were, where we met was on Renovate or Rebuild, which was the it's an award-winning sustainability show, home room show. I believe we have won an award. Tell me about your and you were a judge on that show. Yeah. I mean, what did you most love about, being part of Renovate and Rebuild?
Look, for me, it was the education of it too. So, always keeping a student, really finding out, the products that are out there, how they work, and then how, that offering can be put back to the consumer. I think it's really important that I think people have, got a small amount of knowledge, but they don't really know what to do, where to go, what to choose, and why. So I think the show really emulates that really great conversation starter of, what is a 5-star rating? Because generally people who are building a home and designing a home, it was arguably one of the last things that they thought about when the working drawings were starting to be, to be done. Everything in their heads is all about, pretty, beauty, fluffy, it's how they wanted to, have their house look. It wasn't so much how they wanted to feel. And there's a difference between, walking around and feeling, that they love all their surroundings. It's another of feeling, comfortable in climate and comfortable in, walking into that space, summer or winter. So I think that educational process is a great conversation starter that the show has, opened up. And I was blown away with, the designs, again, the feedback that I was starting to get back from, my clients was great, because obviously it was really hitting that sweet spot of, well, what star rating do I need to have? It allowed them to start looking at a power bill, whereas, again, in a household of, mum, dad and kids, dad would take normally care of the accounts and mum would, look at the pretty, that's just sort of how the world operated. So when, these women were coming to me saying, oh, can I have a look at some beautiful fabric for a cushion? They were saying, what is actually our energy bill? How much does that actually cost us? What am I using? Am I using gas or am I using induction? What does that mean in our, power world? So it was really getting that conversation started, which I thought was amazing. And the conversion rate of clients that we had started off at the beginning to where they are now, really going, oh, I don't care about that stuff, to, oh, well, hang on a minute, I need to buy a Tesla. So, that's the sort of conversion that I was seeing. So I was really proud of the fact that, the education that I was getting and being able to impart on that consumer through, this amazing TV show, just being a judge, was phenomenal. So, it was a great experience and really looking forward to the next series.
Absolutely, season 2 coming soon, and we're both filming on Oppenheimer's Australia season 5. I mean, it's going to air mid-March, so I'll shamelessly spruik that to the producers of 9 Live.
Yep.
But it's been an absolute joy to film, and you particularly filmed a segment for Good Mates of Mine and Power Solar and Anthony Lentini and Don. I should mention Don in Perth.
Amazing.
How was that home? How was the home that you filmed?
Yeah, incredible. So it was a beautiful modern home, but again, having Don's understanding and his team, by the way, are just, phenomenal. There was nothing that these guys didn't know, which was fantastic. So filming that home and again, creating that open conversation, through understanding, the temperature when you walk through the home, the energy rating of the home, the products that they used, even just getting people to understand, what a battery does and how it actually operates. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated, and simplifying it down. It's all about how somebody feels about when they walk in their house and keeping that temperature control and thinking about orientation, of windows and doors and products and, thermal mass and products that you can use. And to be completely honest, before we started shooting, and being a judge on Ready Set Reno, I was really quite ignorant of understanding, the power of actually creating that energy efficiency. So I've been on this really, really steep learning curve, which has just blown my mind, and I'm just a huge advocate now of really thinking about those things right at the very beginning. In fact, we've even put it now into our selection schedule of thinking
Fantastic.
about, do you want solar? Why do you want it? Do you want to work with gas or electric? What sort of car do you drive, and what do you think you're going to drive in 5 years' time? So it's really initiating, those questions now, whereas, that wasn't in our plan beforehand. So now it's absolutely a no-brainer and a must-have item.
No, I love it. I mean, I'm absolutely, I'm absolutely delighted that, with the producers that I'm working with, obviously first with Renovate Rebuild and now Oppenheimer's for Energy Matters, and more so our industry, to be included on these TV shows. And we have a little segment on every single episode of Oppenheimer's, and where we get to introduce the technology. And you obviously did the walkthrough for this beautiful home in Perth, and it's amazing because it really does make everyone aware that you can have a stunning property that's just architecturally perfect, but the impact you can have by adding sustainability, adding renewable energy technology would make such a big difference to not just us, but obviously future generations. I mean,
absolutely.
And I know you're adding it, but what would what's in your opinion? I mean, solar power, batteries, EVs. I mean, would you say they're worth it? Would you recommend it to every single person today to adopt into their home?
Look, I think if you have children and grandchildren, and you're thinking about their futures, we come from a generation of, it really wasn't something that was thought about. My parents, it was something that they weren't thought about. So, our clientele now are sort of, between 35 to 65. And, they are in that generation now that they do have to think about sustainability. And I think it's gone from, the greenies, or where people sort of thought, oh, it's only for the hippies and, it's only for, the people that, want to go and recycle and all that sort of stuff. It's completely different now, especially in the homes. It's something that has to be thought about. It's a conversation that needs to be had. And I think, I feel that I have a duty of care to really bring that to the forefront, which is why we've implemented what we've done. I think, electric cars are still a little bit scary for some people because it's the unknown, and anything that's unknown, they get a bit worried about. But more and more people are starting to see, the electric cars. And I think it's only a given, there's hybrids now out there, there's other forms, and it's just going to be a natural transition of what it was from how we used, the brick phones to a little iPhone. So it's just going to be a natural progression. And I think in, even probably as early as 5 years, those, other things are going to be literally taken away. And so the choice is going to be narrowed to this is what you're going to need to do, which I think is great. Do I advise everybody? Yeah, absolutely. Now I do, because I understand it. And I think that that's what it's about. I think it's understanding, getting yourself educated, knowing the products that are available to you. A lot of people just do solar because they think that that's what they have to do, but they don't actually understand what it does.
Yes.
And I think that programs like Open Homes and, Renovate and Rebuild are those shows that are going to bring them to the forefront. I mean, a funny story, people didn't know what a scullery was, a butler's pantry, a scullery.
Yeah. I was going to say, what is a scullery? No, butler's pantry.
What is that elusive scullery? And then the Block did it, and now everybody has it, so it's just one of those things that I think if you are consistent in the messaging and the narrative around, and actually understanding the why and the passion behind the why, it just makes complete sense to people. And I think the other thing that people were really worried about was costing. They didn't understand, well, it's going to cost me, this to do that, but what they need to be educated on, but you do this, but then you're saving in X, Y, and Z at the other end. So, I think as a, professional in the industry, it's up to, all of us to educate the consumer, because that's what we do. And we've got to get as much information ourselves, from the right resources to then put it into the market and with confidence and say, this is the product, this is why, and this is what it's going to do for you.
Completely. I mean, and in today, you're 100% bang on. I mean, in our industry, the hardest message to convey has always been about, yes, there is an upfront cost. Yes, the upfront cost can be, $2,000, can be $3,000, it can be $5,000, can be $10,000, depending on what technology you want to incorporate. But you are going to save money as a direct result. And of course, by incorporating this technology, you essentially, sort of helping to save the planet. You can reduce your carbon footprint, which in a sense is going to help slow down global warming.
Yes.
The great thing about today is, and I think where people are starting to understand, the investment first and foremost doesn't have to be an upfront investment. It can be on a finance arrangement or a buy now, pay later, and then you're saving money immediately on your energy bills. And after 3 or 4 years, you've achieved a return on investment, which means your savings have now met the overall investment at the beginning. And you've got another 5, 10, 15, 20 years of savings to go to continue. And you're not buying electricity, and you're obviously helping the environment, period. So it really has become an absolute no-brainer. So for anyone watching, no-brainer. If you haven't got renewable energy in your home right now, definitely get it. Don't worry, I'll do some more shameless spruiking in a little while with another banner. But before I do, Natalie, I mean, what small changes can people make to move towards a zero carbon future? I mean, what would you recommend a small step?
It's a really good question, because it's something that we also as a family had to look at. And I think everybody does. And I think it's also that thing where people go, well, is what I'm going to do making a difference? And the answer is absolutely yes. So, things like recycling, reusing, the consumer side of, the consumerism, looking at, everything that you buy holistically, even as little as going to, the shop and looking at, the produce that you're purchasing and how you then bring that home. It's all of those little details and those little steps that I think people can take. I think in building, really looking at, the product that you're using, making sure that, it has got that sustainability, side of things, I think is really also important. But personally, the rubbish recycling, the consumer side of things, making sure that you're reusing when you can, and that's hard if you've come from doing nothing to doing, those little small things, and then getting the kids to, be inviting into that. And I think also now the kids are just so knowledgeable, and getting drummed in. Is great, and that they'll be the first ones to say, don't use that plastic bag, don't use that plastic container. So that's always that little reminder that we're actually doing it for them. By the time that they get to our age, we want to be able to know and look back and think, we actually did do the right thing, and we're not just, my conscious thing isn't going to make any difference. It actually does. So it's just the littlest things, but being conscious of those implementations that you can do every single day in all sorts of avenues and everything that we do.
Absolutely fantastic, Natalie. I definitely couldn't have said that about myself. So look, before we finish off, what's next for you? What's next for Indah Island?
Well, we've got so many different things going on. We are just about to launch what we're calling our Selections in a Box range, which is really collaborating with some fabulous brands here in Australia, creating Indah Island product brands in tiles with moldings. We're doing a flooring range. We're doing a lot. So that again was a piece of the pie or the market that we were seeing, that people get really overwhelmed and confused trying to do selections for their house. So that's been something that has been on my agenda for probably about the last 5 years, which is amazing. We're also collaborating with the Home Beautiful magazine right now, and working on a series of different Hampton style looks. So that'll be launched in April over the next sort of 6 to 7 months. And, that's a really, again, exciting project, because I think for so long people have been thinking Hamptons, blue and white cushions and, the very classic traditional styles. And actually, we've got a lot of different looks under there. When people go to the Hamptons and come back, they get it. And we can't sort of grab everybody and take them over there. So we're bringing it to them so that, people can have these beautiful homes, but can have, they can be a modern look. They can be a more, country farm look. They can still do your classic traditional. They can do coastal and a tropical look. So, we're going to be really bringing that to the consumer again, so that they understand they can have these beautiful classic timeless homes, but have their own character and personality brought into them. And then we're linking arms with our online store, obviously, to then bring those looks so people can be really directed and go, okay, look, I'm modern. I'm not all this, eclectic traditional look. And then we can link them straight into, the looks that still have a beautiful classic timeless home, which, again, comes down to sustainability. We don't want to keep having these different looks and different things all the time. We want to be able to have a beautiful classic traditional house, but we want to inject our personality into any of those different styles, and we're here to show them how they can do that.
That's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I think my wife and I established that we're modern coastal.
Oh, there you go. Well done.
I think so.
I think I am, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think like a lot
of Beautiful magazine, it'll probably nail it for you.
Exactly. Well, tune into, and when that does get released, we'll certainly be sharing it on our site too. So, but Natalie, thank you so much for your time today. We absolutely love you. You're an absolute legend, an inspiration, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for educating me. I mean, it's been an amazing, journey just sounds so cliche, but it really has. It's been an incredible education for me that I can then pass on to my clients and obviously help other people, and then that encompasses and helps everybody.
No, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I look forward to seeing you on TV and working with you again on Open Homes and on future shows. And obviously, we'll be in touch about designing and building our property later this year.
Absolutely.
Good on you. Thanks, Annie. Take care.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, before we finish up, just, remember that you can get up to 3 free solar quotes and a free energy bill comparison via our website, energymatters.com.au. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Other than that, it's been a pleasure speaking to you all today, and we look forward to catching up again very, very soon. All the best, guys.